See the Gemaras, in the center, take from the center ones.
Thank you. Amen. Easy with that stuff.
Okay.
Want to go to bed, right? Go to bed.
We're going to start on the bottom of Chaf Zayin Amud Beis, the bottom line, right after the Mishnah, 27b. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day.
Amen.
The source of our learning, we should have Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so the Mishnah on Chaf Zayin said the same way that the water checks, investigates, it examines to see if she's innocent or guilty, so too the water also examines him. And that was, they used the pronoun, they said him. Who's the him? So the Gemara starts off, Oisei Laman. Him is meant for who? Who is meant when it says that the water examines him? Ilema Labal, if we say that the water examines the husband, Al Mayafid, what did the husband do? His wife was the adulteress. He didn't do anything. It says, V'chitema, if you say this, maybe, what it means is like this, that if he has any sin, which Rashi learns that the sin is, that we're referring to here, is that if he had relations with her after she's suspected, so then that's considered a sin, Bad Kilamaya. The Gemara asks, if he has a sin, will the water be effective to examine her? We said before that Vatanya, we learned in a brisa, that if the woman is guilty, it says that the husband that brought her is free from guilt, even though she dies because of this, but the husband did nothing wrong. But the Gemara learns from that pasuk that bisman sheish menuka mi'afen hamayim beit k'masishte, ein ish menuka mi'afen ein hamayim beit k'masishte. The only time that the water is effective is if the husband did not live with her after she's suspected. But if he does, then the water doesn't work. So when we say in the Mishnah, Kshem shamayim beit k'maisa, kach hamayim beit k'naisai, that there's just like the water examines her, so too it examines him. If he is guilty, then the water doesn't examine her. So it can't examine her because it's not going to work at all. So the Gemara says, Bela Labayel. Rather, it's talking about that it examines the paramour. It see if he's guilty. So what's going to happen is she's going to be her thighs are going to drop and her stomach is exploding. This guy is somewhere out playing golf somewhere. All of a sudden, his thighs start to drop and his stomach explodes. Nothing. He's not even there at the base of English. He doesn't come along. Wherever he is, he gets examined. Okay.
Excuse me. Would this Rashi exclude Avaris of the husband before this whole incident?
Yeah, that's what Rashi's saying. It's a big question on this Gemara. There's a very strong question. I understand why did Rashi not say what the Gemara says clearly? If you just read the Gemara, you could have read it. If the husband has any sins, any sexual sins, then the water is going to examine him. That means the wife wasn't faithful. If the husband did anything, that's what the reading of the Gemara would imply. The husband did anything wrong, so the water examines him, and he's going to be guilty. The reason why Rashi doesn't do that is because when he sins like that, he doesn't get the death penalty. He's not a state. He's allowed to have two wives. He wasn't faithful to her, but that doesn't mean he gets the death penalty. So we have to say something that's going to be significant. The only problem is that what we said was not significant enough to give him the death penalty anyway. If he lives with her after she's a Sotah, he still doesn't get the death penalty. So there's a question on the Gemara that why should he die just because he lived with her? I mean,
This is his wife after he accused her, after he won. She's still his wife.
Yeah, it's a prohibition here that she becomes prohibited to him because she's a Sotah. She wasn't faithful. But that's a negative prohibition. That's not a death penalty. Yeah, I don't know the pshat. I mean, there must be something in the commentaries. Does it say anything why he should die? Right on the top of Chavches, does any comment why the husband should die? In the Gemara's suggestion, the Gemara ends up that it's not the husband, it's the paramour that is guilty of death, and he's the one that's going to be examined. But in the Gemara's suggestion, the Gemara says maybe it means the husband. And what would it mean that the husband lived with her? At least according to Rashi's, the husband lived with her, and that's going to be what it's examining. Did the husband live with her? That's what it would examine. But why should he get the death penalty? What's his punishment if he lied about his whole thing? Oh, I'm going to say like an Adam Simon. I'm going to say deserving of death because he's bringing his wife. He's bringing his wife. The problem is Adam Simon is chiddush, and we're not going to say like, oh, he tried to. He doesn't have a pun. He doesn't get punished. She just gets rewarded. That's what we asked. We said, is this going to be abused by? Well, we asked it a little differently, but okay. Okay, so we say it's referring to the boil. So that's the boil is going to be examined. Now the Gemara asks, well, if that's the case, then listening to the Tani Seifa, Shem Shasur Labal, Kachasur Labal. Why? This is just a language question. This is like a grammar question. When we started the Mishnah, it says Shem Shamayim Baitim Isa, Kachamayim Baitim Isai. Just like it examines her, so it examines him, but it uses the pronouns. But he doesn't drink. He doesn't drink. Yeah.
That he's with his wife after the drink?
No, after he suspects her, before the drink. After the drink, then either she's dead or she's permitted. Right? It's
or she could be in the process of dying.
Yeah, but that would be highly unlikely. So, so the question is, the following case of the Mishnah says, just like she becomes prohibited to the husband, so to the Baal, she becomes prohibited to the Baal. I was asking, if what you meant to say was the Baal, then why don't you say the Baal? Why do you have to say Isai, the pronoun, which makes it ambiguous? So the Gemara says like this. It says, listening to the Ketani Seifik, Shem Shasur Labal, Kachasur Labal. It says, Lo'ilam Labayal. We're not changing our pshat just because you have a grammar question. Reisha, the first part of the Mishnah, I did the Tani Isai. Once it said Isa, her, Shem Shamayim Baitim Isa, so then it's a pronoun. So then it finishes also with the pronoun of him. Seifa, I did Tani Baal, Tani Bayal. So basically, but the answer to the grammar question is that we tried to make it symmetrical. And since in the first part of the Mishnah, we said Isa, which means her, so we also compare that to Isai, which means him. And the second part of the Mishnah, we speak about the Baal, the husband, so then we speak about the Bayal, the paramour. That's the explanation for the wording of the Mishnah. Okay, let me just mute. Okay. We have a new part of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, how do we know that the water examines him just like it examines her? And him is referring to the bayal, the paramour. It says ubo ubo, ubo ubo. So let's take a look because we're going to have a bunch of sukkim here. we're going to have to look at the whole parsha, the whole paragraph. Which Taisvis? Oh yeah.
All the way on the bottom compares Sota to Ashes. It was amazing. All the way on the bottom. So if it's amazing, she's like already like Ashes.
Yeah, so that's true.
That's what it sounds.
What are you saying?
How can you read
I didn't understand that.
First of all, how can you see the letters?
What letter?
So small.
These?
Oh, no, I thought you were reading.
I don't understand what you mean. She's like. She is malicious.
No.
I don't understand.
When if she did the amazing somebody else in this situation, because he used the word latama. So he brings another pasuk. It says, you look at the bottom, he says, Omar Shimon ber Rabba b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan Omar V'leish Sam Yisachar Leitesh Kol Zara Tama Ba Hadavar Talui Im Haisa Mezila Asura Shigei Yisrael. The question was, why would the husband deserve that if he came after she drank, after he taken her to Yerushalayim or whatever, after he warned her, she was found. Why would there be even a hava mina that he deserved that? What did he do? What he did, and but not to that level.
Yeah, I looked
It's
at the
a long
Taisvis
one.
before,
Yeah,
and it looks like what the Taisus was doing was he's quoting a Yerushalmi that does other comparisons between her and him besides for what we have, besides just for the examination. Okay, let's take a look at these psukim here. Okay, it's going to take a minute. Shem spoke to Moshe saying, speak to the Jewish people and say to them, any man that his wife strays and she rebels against the husband, a man lay with her, Shich Basera. We learned what that was teaching us. By the way, I should go do this differently. Speak to the Jewish people. We learned what that was coming to teach us. V'amarta aleim, and say to them, we also learned what that, each word over here, the Gemara was examining these psukim. Ish. We learned what that was coming to tell us, if you remember, not the child. I don't know if we mentioned anything there. We learned what that was referring to. Hidden from the husband. Vinistra. Okay, now it says, and she's concealed from her husband, and there's no. She was secluded. She's impure. She has no witness, and she was not forced. Then it passes over him a spirit of desire to warn her. We spoke about that, if that's a good spirit or not. And he warns his wife and she is impure, or a spirit of desire passes over him and he warns his wife and she is not impure. So the man brings his wife to the kain. We learned what that was coming to include. Remember, it has to be, the man has to bring her, right now when he's in prison. And he brings the sacrifice, a tenth of an ephah. Don't put on oil, don't put it on frankincense. It's a mincha of zealousness. It's a mincha of remembrance. It remembers the sin. And the kayan brings her near and stands her in front of Hashem. We learned that was by which gate that was. The kayan takes the holy water from the in the earthenware vessel and from the dirt that's on the ground of the Mishkan. Then he lifts up a tablet from the Beis Hamikdash. The kayan takes it and puts it on the water. We learned the water was first, and then this. The kayan stands the woman in front of Hashem. He undoes her hair. He puts the mincha on her hand. This is a mincha of zikaron, a mincha of knais, and it's in the hands of the kayan. And in the hands of the kayan is the bitter waters. The kayan makes her swear. Says to the woman, if the man, no man has laid with you, if you have not strayed to be impure under your husband, then you'll be free from this waters, these bitter, cursed waters. And you will drink under, but if you have indeed gone astray, and if you did stray from your husband, and you are impure, and a man has given his laying with you, and you have allowed another man beside your husband to sleep with you, then you will choke. The Kohen makes her swear, and the Kohen says to the woman, Hashem should give you this curse, and your thighs will drop, and your stomach will burst. And the impure waters will come into your stomach to cause your stomach to burst and your thighs to drop. Right? It says it like the opposite over there. And the woman says, Amen, Amen. We learned why it switches. One was because the thighs get cursed first, because they started the sin. The second one was that the other one is that the stomach bursts first, in actuality, because it's the way the water enters the body. That's how. And he writes this on a parchment. We learned what does he have to write? It's a bunch of opinions, and he has to erase it in the bitter waters. We learned bitter waters. It was bitter even before. We had to add something bitter into it. Remember, the Kohen makes the woman drink, and the waters the waters come into her. It says the word uva'u. They come into her. The Kohen takes from the hands of the woman the mincha, and he waves it in front of Hashem, and he brings this as an offering. So we brought the mincha before. I mentioned it here. That was a big discussion. Yeah. The Kohen takes the scoopful and he offers it, and afterwards the woman drinks the water. We learned about Reb Shimon drinks before, drinks after. She drinks the water, and if she's impure and she rebelled, the waters come into. It says again uva. The waters come into her, and listen to what it says, and her stomach bursts and her thighs fall. Say that again. The thighs fall, collapse. And the woman is a curse amongst her people. And if she is not impure and she is clean, then she is proven innocent, and she will bear children. These are the laws of the warnings that a woman that strays from her husband and becomes impure, or a man, that was verse 29, and she becomes impure, or a man that a spirit of warning comes over him, and he warns his wife, and he stands her in front of Hashem, and the Kohen will do all of these laws, and the man will be clean from sin, and the woman will carry her sin, responsible for sin. Okay, so we had twice it says uva, that the waters will come into her. So Rabbi Kiva said, you know what it means, uva, that it means twice uva'u. That's coming to tell us that one for the husband and one for the paramour, that they both. The Gemara has a question. When Rabbi Kiva said ba'u uva'u ka'amar, uva'u ka'amar, was he learning that there's two different sayings, two different words that said ba'u? Or is he learning that it just said once ba'u, and he's learning from the vav? There's an extra vav. Sometimes is it the uva'u that he's learning, or is it that it said twice uba'u uba'u? Is it ba'u with the vav that's already twice, or is it a repetition? Well, Tashma. So come and listen. Quote from the Mishnah. We read the next piece of the Mishnah. It says, just like she's forbidden to the husband, she's forbidden also to the paramours. It says nitma v'nitma. Okay, so the Gemara says v'dayin tibai nitma v'nitma kamar nitma v'nitma kamar. I know it said several times nitma. It actually probably says 3 times or 4 times nitma. We'll see soon. But when it says that the double expression of nitma, she became impure, is it saying that it's a double expression, or is it just quoting it once and it's using the vav to add in an extra one? You know, we know that Rabbi Akiva would darshan even a crown on the letters. And for sure, a letter itself, a vav, Rabbi Akiva is going to darshan that. Maybe it means just the extra vav. So Tashma, so basically what we did was we asked what is the limud of uva'u, and we try to answer it with the limud of v'nitma. So now we ask a question on what is the limud of v'nitma. Now we're going to try to answer that. Tashma midiktani seifa. You go further. It says Rebbe Yomer. Rebbe says Shnei pamim amurim b'parsha v'nitma v'nitma. So Rebbe was very specific, explicit, very clear that it needs to be that the limud was from the double expression of v'nitma. Echad lebal v'echad lebayal. Now, the fact that Rebbe is arguing on Rabbi Akiva, Rebbe is Rabbi Danas. He's arguing on Rabbi Akiva. He says that it's from the double expression. Michlal, that implies the Rabbi Akiva vavi kadarish. Rabbi Akiva was just looking at the letters. Hilkach, the extra vav. Therefore, the Rabbi Akiva shita kroi ksivi. According to Rabbi Akiva, if he darshans every vav, and what's going to happen over here is it actually says 6 times uvo. Chad l'tzava. One of them is coming to tell us that it's going to empower the waters that they're going to be effective. L'tzava dida. One is that it's effective on her. Chad l'tzava didei, and one is that it's going to be effective on him. Chad la'asiya. One is that you actually have to drink it, that it's going to work. He's going to feed her the water. Dida. Chad la'asiya didei. One is that it's going to work on him. Chad li'yadiya dida. One is that to tell her the order of how it's going to happen. Chad li'yadiya didei, and one is to tell the order how it's going to happen to him. Which is going to happen first. First the stomach and then the thighs. And okay, so that's what we would have according to Rabbi Akiva. The Rebbe, according to Rebbe, that doesn't learn the vav. So tlasa kroi ksivi. He only has 3 because it only says. When I saw this, I only mentioned 2 uvos. I have uvova, and I have uvova in verse 27. I have uvova in verse 24, and I have in verse 22 uvo hamayim in verse 22. So 22, 24, and 27. You have the word uvo. Those are the 3 times, and all of them have an extra vav. So according to Rabbi Akiva, that 3 turns into 6. According to Rebbe, it's just 3. One is empowering the waters, one is actually doing it, and one is saying how it's supposed to happen. So what we have to say how it's supposed to happen, so we shouldn't say that it didn't happen right. No one should say like, oh, it didn't work properly. So we have to inform the order of it. Gemara asks, Rebbe, Shem Shamayim Beit K'Maisa, Kach Beit K'Maisa Yiminale. If Rebbe only has Rebbe only has 3 verses, and each of those are significant to tell us what's going to happen to her, and to warn her, and to everything about her. So how do we know what's going to happen to him if he doesn't use the vav?
Is he saying Hashem's using the vav to draw down the effectiveness of the process?
At least one of them, the vav would be doing that. Gemara says, "Nafkale midetanya latzbeis beten v'lanpol yarich." If you notice when it said that the thighs, that the stomach explodes and the thighs collapse, one time it says in a feminine, "B'tzavsa bitna v'nafla yarecha," her stomach explodes, her thigh collapses. Another time it said, "Latzbeis beten," for the stomach, and it didn't use a bitna, didn't say her stomach, it just says beten, v'lanpol yarich, and the thigh collapses. It doesn't use a feminine, it uses just a regular masculine. Well, it's using a masculine, so that's telling me that his talking about the paramour's stomach and thighs are also going to collapse. Bitnai v'yarecha shel bayal. It's talking about the stomach and the thighs of the paramour. Maybe it's not talking about that. Maybe it's just talking about, it didn't ascribe a possessive to it, but it's still talking about her thigh and her stomach. Well, it says, we had another pasuk which spoke exactly about her thigh and her stomach that's going to explode and collapse. So obviously, when the other one didn't say hers and was talking about his, but that other verse that talks about just the thigh and the stomach, without ascribing a feminine possessive pronoun, it's talking about the man, the paramour, his thigh and his stomach will explode and collapse. Okay, so that is how Rebbe learns that he's also going to be judged by this, examined, because of the Yarech and Beten that it says in the pasuk. Yeah.
When we say bed, you mean
Abdomen.
abdomen, including all the organs, the female organs. We're
I
not
don't know.
talking about like a stomach like more or less like a
I don't know I don't know in what Beten means in that.
What lashon is used like when a woman carries a baby?
That just says Bekirba, like inside her.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good, Rashi.
Because the thought that was just coming to me was, most punishments are either connected.
Right.
I think we mentioned elsewhere, like here, because she opened up her legs and then for the wrong thing.
Right.
And then, so she ends up now, her stomach busts open, she gets a C-section, but not for baby. And then her legs go.
Right.
So
The description was that the pleasure that she got was first on her thighs and then on her stomach. So I don't know if you have to get into, is it the uterus? Is it the uterus or is it the abdomen or is it the
So it's just
I think it's just
you
the
don't have to say
yeah.
it's because she didn't use it for the right thing.
I think it's like the general. Doesn't get into which bones of the yara. What is it? Femur and other.
Daf Yomi is not an anatomy sure, so.
Okay. Okay. It's yeah, but the one part of this that we do have described is that as it goes down, the water goes through the stomach, and that's the order of its going.
But in diseases, not all you, but in diseases where there's accumulation of water, like cirrhosis, kidney disease,
Right.
that typically the water third spaces into the abdomen. That's why it's
Right.
And then you see swollen legs. So I don't know that then, even though it said going into the stomach,
Yeah.
stomach, don't worry, that's nourished. That's and you could do it too if you want to. Anyway. that's my
But basically, what the Dr. Stein is saying is that when it says that the way the water goes into the body, it goes into the stomach, then it goes into the legs. Water doesn't go into the legs. It's not like when you eat standing up, you get fat feet. It must mean that the water gets absorbed in other parts of the body in
gravity.
Yeah. You follow that? Otherwise, you learn this. You just have to sort of ignore that.
It's not the water.
It's not the water, but the fact that it described it like that the way it goes through the body, first the stomach and then the legs. So what does it mean? And then the legs? No, but it says the way it goes to the body, first the stomach, but it doesn't continue to the legs. Okay.
And then you can see the whole reason.
It's not the water, it's whatever is in it.
This is how it's going to be.
Okay.
I was quiet for 35
It's actually
minutes.
the
That's the
above,
longest I've
above.
ever been quiet.
There's still
Sorry?
it's not the water, it's the
And now
above, both.
Oh, okay.
So you do
Yeah.
the
I'm
explosion.
sorry, what did you say?
The vav from Uvo that's doing it. It's not the water.
You do the
Oh,
explosion. again.
these two terrible.
Okay.
Can you do the explosion
The
again?
Gemara now says Ve'idach. What does Rabbi Akiva do with that pasuk of Beten and Yarech? It says Hahu the Maida Kayan the Beten Beresha the Yarech Shlailaitzi Lazal Mayim Amarim. We said that was significant because the Kayan wanted to tell the woman that the stomach is going to explode first. She shouldn't see the stomach exploding first and not the thigh collapsing first. She shouldn't say, "Oh, it's not working properly." This one was a dud. What's it called? Defective. The idach, and what does Rebbe do? How does Rebbe tell? According to Rebbe, how does that How do we see that he does that? Why doesn't it say in the feminine? My betin v'yarech. Why does it say in the masculine? Coming to teach us that it's referring to that the bayal, the paramour, will explode. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. You hear what Toby is asking?
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
He's saying, would someone really like doubt that this is working because the thighs exploded before the collapsed before the stomach explodes? I mean, she drinks the water, the thighs collapse and the stomach exploded, and she would say, well, no, they told her the thighs are going to collapse and the stomach is going to explode. And turns out the stomach exploded before the thighs. As she's dying, she's saying, you should just know, everyone, that it doesn't really work. Is that really what she's going to say then? Anyway, okay. It's coming to tell us that every single detail is exact. That's the right.
Oh, they told me like
Right.
this, but then this happened. So
These things were actually within Samura.
We don't have like a lot of records of this, but we do have one record, definitely, where the woman switched with her sister. Remember that story? There was a man that was taking his wife to the Beis Hamikdash. Along the way, they stopped at the sister's house. So the sister said, "Let me go instead of you," and they went along with the husband, and she drank the water, and she was fine. But on the way back, the sister switched places with her, and they kissed, and a little bit of the water went into the sister, and she exploded then. So that we have a record. I mean, at least Chazal record the story like that. They tell us a story like. I don't know if others that where it's described kiss of death.
Well, with the husband.
The husband didn't notice they were twins. Yeah. Maybe we're only talking about the bayal according to Rebbe. We're not talking about the order of the how it happens. It says then it should just say bitnei v'yarechai. It should actually put the masculine pronoun on it. My betin v'yarech. What does it mean, betin v'yarech, where it doesn't give any possessive pronoun? Shema min hatarti, it's coming to tell us both. First of all, that the paramour explodes. Second of all, the order of how it happens is that first it's the stomach and then it's the thighs. Okay. I'm Rabbi Yeshua. When Rabbi Akiva said that just like the woman becomes prohibited to the husband, just like the woman becomes prohibited to the husband, so too she becomes prohibited to the paramour. And where do we learn that from? Because it says nitma v'nitma with an extra vav. So Rabbi Yeshua says, oh, you know what? That's what way Rabbi Zechariah ben Akatzav taught it. That's what Rabbi Yeshua says. However, Rabbi said it differently. Okay, so I'm Rabbi Yeshua kachi der Zechariah. Rabbi Yeshua didn't say what Rabbi said. Rabbi Yeshua, I don't think ever saw Rabbi. Tana Rabbanan, taught in the Brisa, Shalish pa'amim hamurim beparsha im nitma v'nitma. It says 3 times. It says im nitma, it says nitma, and it says v'nitma. Lama. Why do we need 3 times this repetition in the different verses? It's coming to teach us 3 halachas. Echad lebal, echad lebayal, echad letruma. One is that the woman is prohibited to continue living with her husband. Another one is she's prohibited to then marry the paramour. And also, she is prohibited to eat truma. Now, what does it mean she's prohibited to eat truma? Let's say she was the daughter of a kohen. Her father's a kohen. But she had a relationship with this paramour as a married woman. So she becomes a zaina. She becomes a zaina. She becomes prohibited to marry a kayan, even if the husband would die. She can't marry a kayan, and she has a widow. Normally, a widow can marry a kayan, but this widow would not be able to because she became a zaina through the relations with this paramour. No, but what we're going to need to, the way we're going to discuss this is we're going to need to say that she's not drinking. Now, why is she not drinking? Because there was one witness, or
So we're adding that to make it fit.
no. What we're saying here is if she's prohibited to the husband, okay, that is before she drank. After she drinks, she's permissible. She's prohibited to the paramour. That's obviously she didn't drink, because otherwise she would be permitted to him if the husband would die right then, because obviously she was innocent and she never had relations. So it must be that she's not drinking for a different reason. And she's also prohibited from eating truma. That's only because she's not drinking for some other reason. She's not. Otherwise, if she does drink, she can go back and eat truma. So all of this is when she's not drinking. But these are the laws that apply right now. 3 halachas. She can't eat truma. So if she was a daughter of a kohen, she can't eat truma. And if she's the husband, the wife of a kohen, she can't eat truma because she's prohibited to the husband. She's like not part of that family anymore. Usually, the wife of a kohen is allowed to eat truma, even if her family is not kohen, right? Slaves are not allowed to eat truma, right?
Well,
But
the
the
master is
Cohen.
Kenyan kas. What does it say over there? Does it say that they can? The Jewish slaves or the non-Jewish slaves? Both. You remember?
Cohen slaves.
Kenyan kas, but it says that maybe they can, but is that referring to the non-Jewish slaves or the Jewish slaves? Remember which one? Anyway, okay, whatever. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. This is what Rabbi Akiva says. He gets 3 halachas out of the nitma v'nitma. I'm Rabbi Shmuel. Okay, Rabbi Shmuel is going to make a comment to Rabbi Akiva, which seems to have nothing to do with what Rabbi Akiva says. So the Gemara is going to ask about this later. I'm Rabbi Shmuel. He says kal v'chaimer. There's a kal v'chaimer. Ma gerusha shemuteres l'truma sur l'kahuna. Let's say a woman is divorced. She was the daughter of a kohen. All right. She was a daughter of a kohen. She marries whoever she marries. It doesn't matter, kohen or not. The marriage doesn't last. She gets divorced. She goes back to her father's house. Is she allowed to eat truma? If there's no children, she's allowed to eat truma. Is she allowed to marry a kohen? No. So it says like this: Ma gerusha shemuteres l'truma sur l'kahuna. A divorced woman that is allowed to eat truma but can't marry a kohen. Zu she'asura b'truma. This woman that cannot eat truma, for sure should not be allowed to marry a kohen. Okay, so basically something that Rabbi Akiva didn't even discuss is she allowed to marry a kohen? Rabbi Shmuel says, I have a kal v'chaimer. She's not allowed to marry a kohen. Okay. Ma talmud laimar v'hi nitma. Now we go to a new topic. What is the meaning of v'hi nitma and v'hi lai nitma? Why does it have to say that twice? She was impure. She was not impure. Every time he does it. Getting from the karbanos. What's asking if she's impure, literally impure, that means that she was guilty. So why should she drink? If she was innocent, if she's innocent, why does he make her drink if she's innocent? Rather, what the pasuk is telling us, it's coming to tell us that when there's a doubt, she's prohibited to her husband. We cannot have done the sheretz. Okay, now we take a little twist over here. We get into another topic, which becomes like a very famous sugya in Sotah. This chaf ches and chaf tes goes like this: that when we don't know, there's no witnesses. Well, it's only witnesses that she was secluded. We don't know what she did. She's prohibited to her husband, even though she may be innocent. Okay, we cannot have done the sheretz. From this, we learned all the halachas of tumah. For example, a sheretz. That a suffix, if a sheretz touched some grain, we're going to say that it's tumah. Just like the Sotah, It's a suffix, and we say that she's tummy. Ma Sota Shlesa b'shegig kamezid v'inus karatzen. Chaim mentioned this, just like a Sota, that we don't say a shegig is kamezid. What does it mean, a shegig kamezid? That means that he was a shegig let's say there was two couples in a house, and it was at night, and they thought they ended up in the wrong in the wrong bedroom, the wrong bed. In those days it was dark. This one thought that he was with his wife, and this one thought that he was with his wife, and this one thought she was with the husband. This one thought she was. So it's a shegig. In the morning they see it was the wrong person. Well, shegig kamezid. We do not say that this is a Sota. V'inus karatzen. And we don't say that if she's raped that she's guilty, right? We don't say that. But nevertheless, also suffix kavadai. But a doubt, we turned it into a definite. She becomes prohibited even when there's a doubt. So sheretz, when it comes to a sheretz, asher b'shegig kamezid. You don't make a difference if it's touched it b'shegig or touched it b'mezid, touched it by mistake, or touched it on purpose, or if it was forced, inus or karatzen in a din, she has to suffix kavadai. Is it not a kal v'chaimer that we should say that a doubt should be considered definite?
But here we have exercise custody on both Parsha and the Torah that tells you that this is a special thing.
Yeah.
Sheretz doesn't have such a special thing. How do you make such a comparison to that?
There's a big discussion. We have different sources. Some sources say that it's really Allah l'meish Sinai, and this comparison is like rabbinic. The Taisus over here and the Taisus in Nida and the Taisus in Chulin are like dealing with all of this.
Like the actual fact doesn't matter how it happens. It happens to the sheriff. That's what the mother said. Once it happens, it happens. It's a matter of shaking on you.
Yeah, but Chaim is asking, but by the Sota, we have a whole parsha of we don't know what happened, and therefore we have to process. And this, so we say, meanwhile, she's us until we figure out she's us.
Because how strong it is. I think that's a big question.
It's a limit. Okay, if it's a limit from this, then if that's the case, that we're learning from Sota to the sheretz, then we can also say the other way. Ma Sota rishus hayachid. Just like the Sota is only in the rishus hayachid that we say this. Af sheretz rishus hayachid. By the sheretz, we're also going to say that when will we say that it's definitely tamei, even though it's not? We're going to consider it tamei. That's only in a rishus hayachid, in a private domain. Why is the Sota by the private domain? Obviously, because no one else was there, or else that it's not where she becomes impure. The door closes. Ma Sota, just like by the Sota, davar sheish b'das lishal, it has to be that you were able to ask. There was knowledge there that you could ask and see what the scenario, what the situation was. Also by the sheretz, if you want to say that it's tamei, it had to be that it touched something that was yesh b'das lishal, not like there was no one there and nothing, no one holding the grain or something. It had to be that someone was there that would have the knowledge that you could actually ask it. Because we're trying to make the comparison here to Sota. Mikan amru. From here they said, anything that comes in contact with tumah, like a person that comes in contact with tumah, and we're not sure if he actually touched, but it's in a private domain, we say it's tamei. And if it's in a public domain, it's feikitar. But if there is no knowledge there, that means if it's not a live person that you could actually ask, then then we can't learn from Sota, because Sota was a different case. We say that both of them are going to be tar. The next Gemara is going to take us down to half the page. Let's leave it over here. And,
a little further.
It's going to be hard to stop.
Please,
Okay.
24 hours.
Okay. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.